Hello, everybody. I am back after the Michigan State basketball game. I do have my Michigan State hat again. I wish I had a clown mask because I thought that Michigan State was a good basketball team, and over the past definitely 3 games, they've proven to not be. And it all kind of spearheaded with today's loss against Michigan, who I still think it isn't very good. But what I think you saw today was two bad teams, and then Michigan got out to a big enough lead at first and made all of the right plays in the really just in the crucial moments. Because if you look at just the box score from the game, it's fairly similar. Neither team shot well. Michigan State shot 33%. Michigan shot 38. Michigan had a big advantage from the three-point line. They made 5 more threes and then shot basically like 39 to 26. But other than that, rebounds 46 to 40, which in my opinion was kind of the turning point of the game. And when you had a lot of those big plays that needed to be made either way, give credit to Michigan because they made every single one of those plays that you could really possibly imagine, and everything else is fairly even. But as far as some of the key moments in the game, it started out bad for both teams. They're shooting horrible. Michigan State had a 1-0 lead after hitting a free throw in like the first 2.5 minutes, but then they didn't lead again the entire rest of the game. And then Michigan came out and they were hot from 3 and hot from nowhere else. So I think their lead at one point was 12-3, or somewhere around there. And it felt bigger than the 9-point lead or 12-6, 6-point lead or whatever it was, because they kept hitting their threes and then they just weren't hitting anything else. And that kind of went on throughout the first half, where Michigan made some mistakes at the end of the first half, and Michigan State was able to keep it within, I think it was a 6-point game at halftime, which for Michigan State, I mean, given how they played in the first half, you had to consider that enormous win to only be down 6 with, how bad they played, and how many opportunities they gave Michigan in the first half. And then in the second half is really where the game, to me, was won and lost, because Michigan came out and they got up. I want to say they got up 10 on Michigan State, and then Michigan State cut the lead down to 1. And then they had a really bad possession where Cassius just kind of dribbled the ball around, and then he jacked up a contested 3, which didn't amount to anything. And then the next play, something stupid happened. It was either a turnover or like another really bad shot. But then Michigan was able to go down on the other end and convert. And it just seemed like every time that Michigan State was able to get close and they cut that 5-point lead to 3, or it was an 8-point lead and they cut it to 5, Michigan would come down on the other end, and then they would miss, and then they would grab an offensive rebound and just put the ball right back in. So instead of having a 5-point lead and the Michigan State with the ball going down with the chance to, cut it, it turned into 5-point lead, miss, rebound, boom, 7-point lead. And that was, to me, really the story of the second half, was Michigan State's inability to rebound, which seems like a really weird sentence to say, especially under a Tom Izzo coach team. But it seemed like they gave up a ton of second chance points to Michigan, and again give Michigan the credit for getting those rebounds and making those plays when they need to be made. And then as far as even sort of like an unsung hero maybe in this game, I know Isaiah Livers came back from Michigan and he played really well. But Eli Brooks, because there are 2 different points where I think Michigan State they cut it to 1 after hitting the 3, and then I think they cut it to like 2 after hitting the 3 another time. And then in both instances, and I didn't know Brooks only made 2 shots the entire game, but both of those makes were in those situations where he answered right back with a 3. So it was 4 points. Michigan State cuts it to 1 with the 3, and then Brooks is open in the corner, and then boom, it's back to 4 points again. And over the course of the game, not only like the momentum shift that gives you, but just that little extra cushion when a team is shooting 33% like Michigan State shot today. 4 points isn't a normal 4 points. You know what I mean? It was because you can't make the shots. So it's more so of like a every possession is crucial kind of thing. And those shots were huge. Obviously, Xavier Simpson came out and he hit his first three threes, missed the next three, and then hit the one to which I thought really iced the game where Michigan was up 8, probably about 4.5 minutes left. And then Xavier hits one to make it an 11-point game. And then from that end on, I think Michigan State did cut the game to like 5 or 6 or something like that. They just weren't able to get it any closer than that and get it over the hump. But that three-pointer, to me, kind of signaled just the end of the game overall. And then everybody else, it's tough to say that people played well, looking at the amount of shots that even most of the guys on Michigan missed, but just the plays that they were making. So we mentioned Xavier Simpson's threes, which were huge in the first half, because even though you had both teams struggling, a lot of those threes that were made, Xavier had 3 of them in the first half in general, which was 9 points, and Michigan only scored 29 in the first half. So, you take away those 9 points, they're actually trailing, obviously at halftime. And then just kind of during the flow of the game when neither team can make a shot, having 9 points on 3 shots was huge in being able to build up enough of a lead where MSU was never fully able to come back or regain the lead after, they were up 1-0. After like literally the first point of the game. And then same thing with Teskey. 2 of 8, not impressive at all there. But again, 8 rebounds, and he had a lot of those offensive rebounds. Same thing with Eli Brooks, 9 rebounds. And whenever again there was like a loose ball that had to be grabbed or a tip out, it was something that Michigan was able to grab that Michigan State just wasn't able to do. And they played a really bad basketball game today, and obviously it showed in the final score. Timothy says that there's no answer for a healthy Michigan team. I don't believe that to be true. I think again, I still don't think Michigan is a good team, and I don't want to sound like I'm hating because I don't think Michigan State's a good team either. But given Michigan just shot 11 of 28 from 3, and you had 4 of 7 from Xavier Simpson, and I understand everybody shooting bad can kind of throw that off a little bit. But I don't know that you're going to get Michigan this hot from beyond the arc again, but you also might not get them that cold from 2. And again, I think if you're playing another team, it wouldn't be to say that Michigan wouldn't get those rebounds or wouldn't get all those loose balls, but getting, I don't want to say 100% because I'm not sure that's true, but probably like 85% of those plays going in your favor. I don't think that that's something that happens every game. A lot of that is toughness, which Michigan showed more of today. But there are other parts of that where it's just kind of where it's luck of the draw, and if the ball is closer to you or it bounces closer to you, or 2 Michigan State players run into each other or something like that, those are things that help Michigan today, getting a win that I think they're probably in the tournament today anyway. They beat Rutgers. I think they beat somebody else. But this win, kind of firmly plants them in there as long as they don't free fall the rest of the way, which with Livers back, you shouldn't expect them to. And they're definitely a better team with Livers. But I don't think there's no answer for a healthy Michigan team, because I think the last game with Livers that they played, they ended up losing. Go blue, go blue. Michigan State won't be ranked soon. I mean, probably not. Right, this is their 3rd loss in a row, and no signs of really getting better. And their next 2 games are against tough opponents too. I think they play Illinois, and they play Maryland, who have both played a lot better basketball than Michigan State has. Not only this year, but definitely definitely recently. And I think one of those games is on the road too. I think Illinois is on the road. I think it's at Illinois and then home against Maryland. Which, given especially Michigan State on the road, I don't think any Michigan State fan feels comfortable about them winning back-to-back losses. I'm pretty sure it's back-to-back-to-back, unless they got to play a team like Northwestern or Nebraska or something like that. But I think they have lost 3 games in a row. Yep, they lost at Wisconsin, which was a terrible loss. They lost at home against Penn State, another terrible loss, and then they lost today at Michigan. And then, next game they have is on Tuesday against Illinois, and it's on the road, and then they play Maryland at home. So yeah, a tough stretch for Michigan State to finish out the year here. And then being that, you kind of know that you had this stretch too. You play Iowa, you play Maryland, and you play Penn State back to back to back. And then you have Ohio State at the end too, who is not very good, but, I think they can definitely beat you. And then you have Illinois and Maryland before that. Winning games against teams like Wisconsin, like Penn State, and even like Michigan, who have been struggling, and you can still throw Ohio State in that discussion. Like, those have to be paramount, because if you lose to the better teams that you're going to play, like Iowa and like Maryland, you still want a bit of a cushion, not only for seeding in the NCAA tournament, excuse me, but for even like the Big Ten tournament too. You want to be able to play games, and you want to be able to advance at least. That will eventually help you down the road, and hopefully you get a good draw in the tournament. But right now, I don't know that any Michigan State fan should be saying wait till March. And if you are you really just not paying attention, because this does not look like a good basketball team, and they have not played like a good basketball team. And there's so many just kind of deeper rooted problems with the team in general. So, like, when Cassius Winston doesn't play well, there's really nobody else that steps up. And Cassius Winston didn't play well today. And then, you kind of saw it happen. Nobody else really stepped up. Xavier Tillman, he looks like he's still so scared to shoot every time he gets the ball beyond the 3-point line. And I don't think he's going to be knocking it down at like Kenny Goins' efficiency. But you have to at least shoot the ball, because you can make the shot, and it's a shot that we've seen you make. That everybody's seen you make that's watched you. And he looks like, Ben Carter every time that he gets the ball now, scared to shoot it. And then even when he does shoot it, he's timid, and you can tell that he's not shooting the ball with confidence. So then obviously it doesn't go in. And when it does go in, it's almost like a sigh of relief for him and for the fans, because when he shoots it, you're like, this guy this is not a shot that he wanted to put up. So there's no way it's going to go in. And then you just hope for an offensive rebound. And then, even some of the rotation things, like even when Michigan State was down, 8 in the last 3 minutes or whatever, like Foster Loyer is coming into the game, and so is Kyle Arns. And I thought the game was over at that point. But if you're Michigan State and you're Tom Izzo, you still have to be trying to win the game. And just like having that rotation, kind of musical chairs where you're putting guys on offense that aren't able to do anything. The only thing that Foster Loyer can do, at least now, is shoot a shot and like a set shot, because he's not going to create for himself. And even when he's open, sometimes if there's a guy that's, even within a couple feet of him who's not really good in contest, he still passes it out. So you're playing, 4-on-5 on offense. And then, like Arns too. And I like Arns. I like that he hustles, but there's no reason for him to be in the last, 4 minutes of a basketball game. So those like coaching decisions, and you see guys like Rocket Watts, who's been, up and down on the year, but at least he can create his own shot. And you see guys like Aaron Henry, who again, right, of a very inconsistent year. He's played pretty bad, hasn't made the leap that a lot of, Michigan State fans wanted him to and expected him to. But those are still your best players, and you have to get them on the court at the end of the game, even when the game looks like, obviously you're not about to win. You still have to put your guys in the best position to win. Trevor says, maybe this was mentioned. How do you feel about Simpson off the court issues and receiving a 1-game suspension? I think the story is just more kind of funny in general. It's obviously, bad for optics. Lying to the police, looking like he was stumbling around, which was mentioned in the police report at 3 a.m. and crashing someone's car. So there's obviously a lot of assumptions you can make about that. The 1-game suspension, though, I think it's something that you see not just in college sports, but in pro sports, because there's nothing else that you could really suspend him for. If you're Michigan, because he didn't get arrested, he got a citation for driving too fast for the conditions or something. And I don't know that you would give a kid a 1-game suspension for getting what might amount to, like a speeding ticket and a little bit less than reckless driving, kind of permanently on the record. He didn't get, breathalyzed, obviously. So it's not like, hey, there's a DUI there and then you got arrested and then you can give him a multi-game suspension. But, it's not suspension worthy to crash your car. So they gave him 1 game for the curfew. Could they have given him more? And then as details released, people would have been like, okay, yeah, I see a multi-game suspension, I guess. But, after they gave him the 1 game, maybe they thought that it wouldn't come out. Maybe they overlooked the fact that you could just grab a police report from the Freedom of Information Act or something like that. But after you gave him the 1 game, you can't go back and say, okay, well, here's 3 more games. You'd be like the NFL and Roger Goodell, what he did with the Ray Rice thing, and say, oh, with new information. Like you knew all that stuff before if you were Juwan Howard, and it was just a matter of you understanding what quote unquote team rules he broke, and you maybe thinking that that you could just give him the 1 game suspension, and then it would kind of be this whole mysterious type of aura around it to find out if if people would find out. But there's I don't know. Like I think the story is just funnier in general. All the Jeff Jackson memes were super funny, and it's like if you're gonna name your thing, and here's my only thing with it is, if you were gonna say your name was Jeff Jackson Simpson, why would you only lie about your first name and then not your last name? Because like if the cop was even a modicum of a basketball fan, or just heard his coworkers talking about it, like the name Simpson might ring a bell to him. But if you just said, hey, my name's Jeff Jackson and not Jeff Jackson Simpson, maybe there's a slightly higher chance that that good old Xavier would have gotten away with whatever he did. And I guess, in a way he did get away with it. But I don't know. It's whatever at this point, because they're not going to go back and suspend him. And then all of the, kind of worst type of assumptions that you can make, you're never going to really know for sure. You can just look at it based off the circumstantial evidence and then see how much of the story you personally believe or don't, or see what you deduct from the story. And that'll just kind of be the way that it is for forever, because now you can go back and breathalyze somebody or anything like that. But sort of like, and I just gonna sound pretty bad, I guess. But like going back to the game, like there are plays that just really frustrate you. I know there's a play where Rocket Watts, and again, like I say, Rocket Watts and Aaron Henry need to be on the floor, but these next 2 plays are kind of indicative of maybe why they weren't. I think Michigan had went up 9 or 10 or something like that. And then Rocket Watts came right back down the floor. It actually might have been after Xavier's 3, which, with like 4.5 minutes left, that put Michigan up 11. But there wasn't even like time for the camera to pan back. And then Rocket Watts was, missing a contested layup. And then Michigan went back down the other way and did whatever they did. And then I think it was like an 8 or 9 point game. It might have even been 6, which if it was, makes this, way worse. But there was probably 2 or 3 minutes left, and Aaron Henry gets the ball, and Foster Lawyer is in the corner wide open, looking to. I think they probably were down 9 because it would have cut it to 6. Is the thought I remember having. But he gets the ball, and he sees Foster Lawyer. He fakes a pass to him, who's again standing wide open in the corner, the shortest 3 on the court, and is still a really good shooter. And he fakes the pass to him, and then he drives to the basket, and then he just gets his shot swatted, pinned off the backboard, and Michigan rebounds it, and then they go the other way. And like during the time, it's in the like, what are you doing where you're not passing that ball to the corner? Because again, we already established the one thing that Foster Lawyer can do is shoot shots when they are wide open, and that's the value that he brings to you. And he had that opportunity stripped away from him because Aaron Henry wanted to drive to wanted to drive to the basket, really. But that's pretty much what we had for the game. Again, I don't know that either team is really good. Michigan's obviously a better team when they have Isaiah Livers. So, and I think this win firmly, just kind of plants them into the NCAA tournament pool. I don't see a way, unless they lose their remaining, what do they have, 6 or 7 games left. Unless they lose all those games, I don't see a way that they're not in the tournament come March. So in that aspect, it was a really big win for them. And then Michigan State, obviously third loss in a row. Doesn't really look to get any better when your next game is a road game against a team who I think is now second place in the Big Ten in Illinois. And then you host the leader in the Big Ten in Maryland, who, while that's a game at home, they're playing way better basketball than you are at the moment. So interesting to go through both teams. Ryan says, is anyone ever going to talk about how much time Izzo spends crying on the court? It's a lot of coaches who complain. Izzo's definitely one of the bigger offenders of it, but I mean, Juwan complains a lot. You saw that in the last Michigan State game, and it is definitely noted too. Like if you ever listen to Dan Dockich call a game, or if you've ever talked to anybody in the Michigan fan base who really doesn't like the Michigan State basketball program, Izzo's whininess is definitely a hot topic in those circles. But I think it's something that every coach does, and Izzo does it more than a lot of other coaches do. But at the end of the day, it's just gamesmanship and being more passionate. And because when coaches complain about that, I don't feel like they think every call that they think should have been a foul or was called incorrectly. I don't know that they necessarily believe that. You're just trying to, kind of not butter the refs up, because you might want to be a little nicer to them, if I was going to use those words. But just keep it in the ref's mind to where, because the refs know when they miss a call too, right? So if they know they missed a call, they know they're going to hear about it from the coach. Then if something happens the next time, it might be something that they think about in doing it in your favor as either a makeup call, or if they did call something and they saw on the replay or something like it wasn't a foul, and say the next time Xavier Tillman or Cassius Winston did end up slapping somebody's wrist on a shot, but the ref didn't really see it. He thought he saw it, and he's like, well, I don't want to make a wrong call again, so they just let it go. I think that's the benefit of crying on the sidelines. They've gotten bit by a lot of bad calls. I think it goes both ways. There were calls today, which I thought they probably could have got, even on shots they made in terms of like and ones and shots they missed. But it goes both ways every game, where I think both fan bases feel like, we got away with one there, or it's a call that we got. So I'm not huge on blaming officials for really any game. Like there are games where I think it's more blatant than others. And today's game, while there were obviously a couple moments, just like there is in every single basketball game, certainly, because there's so many shots at the rim, and just sometimes there's so many bodies there that you can't really see it. So it's more or less just like a 51 to 49% chance, and then the ref goes with what he thinks he feels. And today I didn't really feel like there was a ton of those. Definitely not enough to make a difference. So even if I felt like some of the times Michigan State went to the line or didn't go to the line they should have, they still shot a ton of free throws, and they made most of them. And then obviously Michigan caught up with the free throws at the end when Michigan State was intentionally fouling them with like 2 minutes left, and then they made a ton of those free throws too. So I don't think that the calls were here. I think it's interesting to see, and somebody tweeted this out, so I still have to check the veracity of it, but I do think it was like a journalist or reporter or something like that, where it said Cassius has cut down, his free throw rate has been cut down like in half this year compared to last year. So maybe he himself is getting not as friendly of a whistle as he was getting last season. But I mean, those are things that you just have to adjust to, right? Because I'm sure other coaches, talking about Izzo complaining, I'm sure other coaches complained last year that Cassius was getting a lot of calls. And so this year, it's something that maybe the refs are a little bit more cognizant of and not giving Cassius those calls, which makes Izzo complain more. But at the end of the day, if you're Cassius and if you're Tom Izzo, that's something that you yourselves have to adjust to, especially this late into the year. If you know, hey, these are the same officials or same crew of officials that referee all of our Big Ten games. If I'm not getting fouls called when I drive to the basket, then there's certain things that you have to do as a team, as a player, whether it's get other guys more involved in shots, whether it's get yourself shots that maybe aren't necessarily right at the hoop, or if it's just getting better shots at the hoop where there's not as much congestion around the rim. Those are things that you guys have to do. But that's pretty much it for what we have today. Again, Michigan getting a big win over Michigan State, who looks like right now they are just free falling, and I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they were unranked come – whether they do the rankings tomorrow or Monday. If they were unranked coming, the next rankings, or if they were like 24 or 25 or something like that. And truthfully, they probably don't even deserve to be ranked after the week that they had. But that is what we have for you guys today. If you haven't before, definitely check out our Sports Carnage podcast. You can find the link right there in the Facebook description. You can find us on other social media too. We got Twitter, which is just at Sports Carnage. And then you can find us, the actual podcast, if you will, on Podbean, and then on Apple Podcasts, iTunes as well. So make sure you check that out to find all of our other content, whether it's more videos like this, whether it's some of our other videos, like the Andre Drummond trade reaction that we just put out yesterday or the day before, I think, somewhere around there. So we have a constant contact flowing. But make sure you guys check out the podcast and make sure you join us for more live reactions like this, and then always stay up to date with Detroit Sports Nation, who does obviously host our podcast, but who also gives you all the news that you need to know regarding any of the local teams here, whether it's college, professional. Make sure you turn your notifications on for them when they post. That way, you guys don't ever miss a story, and then you can always be first with your very own hot takes. That is what we have for you guys today, though. I've been Ryan from the Sports Carnage Podcast. Thank you for joining me and answering questions and allowing me to vent a little bit about my trash-ass green and white basketball team. So thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your weekend.